If you want to understand how Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox Judaism, modern Judaism today came to be, you need to take a step back to when they first formed. And to understand two movements that are both a little bit of a mouthful that kind of formed Western civilization as we know it today. One was intellectual and one was political. Enlightenment and Emancipation. So the Enlightenment was this idea that we have the ability to use logic and discover truth on our own, as opposed to just trusting the church on what we're supposed to believe. In the 18th century, this was a revolutionary idea, like literally revolutionary. If the Protestant Reformation, which many say is the seat of the Enlightenment, sought to overthrow the Catholic Church's control of truth, the Enlightenment sought to overthrow the authority of religious leaders in general. The history here normally focuses on the French Enlightenment, as it was very important to the English and to the founders of America. But the Enlightenment in Germany, which was happening at the same time, was important to the Jews as it was more friendly to religion, or rather, what I would say, rational religion. God linked with the idea of morality and ethics. So Moses Mendelssohn, the star of our story, came to Berlin in the 1700s. And became one of the figures of the Enlightenment. He was a socialite with other philosophers as well as an observant Jew. He gained broad respect through writing about the Enlightenment, and he used that respect to strongly advocate for Jewish emancipation, which is the other movement. It was a political and social one. It meant Jews gaining civic rights and becoming German citizens. Up until that point, Jews had a corporate status, so they interacted with the authorities as a group rather than as individuals. They paid for their taxes as a group. They'd only go to German courts if a matter couldn't be resolved in a Jewish one. Emancipation meant Jews being able to live where they wanted. It meant getting access to many more jobs through being able to join the guilds. It meant being able to go to a bunch more schools. So the hope was with emancipation, everything would be open. It was kind of a big deal. There was an ongoing debate in Germany over whether the Jews should be emancipated. Even though Jews had been there for centuries, they were viewed as outsiders because they had their own culture. They had their own laws, their own language, Yiddish. Before emancipation could happen, many Germans wanted Jews to have a better knowledge of German culture in general, its literature, its values, its language. So, in an effort to teach Jews German, and in that way help encourage Germans to support emancipation, Mendelssohn translated the Bible into German using Hebrew characters. You could call it a transliteration. Jews could read a familiar text in a language they were less familiar with. It was like watching a movie you know really well in English in another language. You just get better at it. So it was accompanied by a commentary, the Biur, which was written by Mendelssohn's students who oversaw the project. The Biur was trying to bring Enlightenment ideals into alignment with other Jewish commentary. The word for the Jewish Enlightenment is the Haskalah, and the Biur is what kicked it off. So, the Biur was the early project on which a lot of his students cut their teeth. It got a strong reaction. Some people denounced it, others wondered what the point was. Most ignored it. What's important is that it helped spark the Haskalah movement. Even more than the book itself, the creation of the book, this collection of his students working on the project, created a movement. And while in Germany the Haskalah only went so far, its influence continued to spread, and by the time it reached Eastern Europe, it had a huge impact. Emancipation took time. Government rulings are complicated. Napoleon was great for the Jews. Well, it was good for the Jews. Napoleon was good for the Jews. His departure was less good. My God, that's a simplification. But by 1871, with the establishment of the modern German state, the Jews were formally emancipated and remained that way until they lost their rights under the Nazis. Enlightenment, a new way to think, and emancipation, Jewish civic rights and economic opportunities, meant that the world had changed. It was now inevitable that the religious aspects of Judaism would change too. And it did. Reform, conservative, and in a way, Orthodox Judaism grew out of this. And and to learn about the birth of the Jewish movements as we know them today, click to watch the next video.